So who's responsible for the madness in both Portland and Seattle over the weekend? If you were to just do a quick search online, you would see what would look to you very likely as though those were cities in the midst of some kind of an insurgency, a war zone. Andy No, my buddy out there on the West Coast, just doing all kinds of on-the-ground reporting. He said that yesterday in Seattle, a mob of bat-carrying Antifa and BLM rioters marched around the city, breaking windows one by one and starting fires. They ambushed police at West and East precincts, injuring 12. Like Portland, police aren't allowed to stop the rioters. This is all from a Twitter thread Andy just put up. The Antifa rioters used fireworks to injure police in an ambush on the Seattle West precinct. One officer was so badly burnt in the neck area that he had to go to hospital. Others suffered lacerations from rioters breaking the windows and throwing rocks. Antifa rioters in Seattle then moved to the East Precinct, the police station in the former Chaz. They broke out the windows of the building and started a fire in the lobby. Federal law enforcement responds at the Portland Federal Courthouse after all the fencing was torn down by rioters. They deployed pepper balls, tear gas, and more. And after setting up barricades and burning the American flag, Antifa rioters are trying to grow the fire they set on the Portland Federal Courthouse. That was some hours ago. They're trying to burn down a federal courthouse, folks. Democrats. These are Democrats. People don't like to hear that for some reason on the left. Oh, that's because if normal people understand the lunacy that lives comfortably within their movement, that's in fact important to their movement, to the Democrat Party, that hurts their prospects of putting on top of all of this, everything that we're seeing, the legitimacy of a Biden election before they just drag us down into the socialist depths of despair. That's what's holding them back. Better to make it seem like an election, right? Better to make it seem like the American people are making the reasonable decision here. So there's this crazy Antifa stuff going on in major cities. And it's just, who do they think they're supporting? Why are they doing all this? All of the things that they say they want are demands that also exist within political groups, partisans, activists of the Democrat Party. The things that they want, their complaints among the Antifa lunatics, of course, they say Donald Trump is a fascist. They say Donald Trump is the problem. All of those things that they're talking about are Democrat points. They're not out there looting and rioting because they want lower taxes, because they want more freedom, because they want, the rule, obviously not the rule of law. They want Democrat agenda items. But who do you think the Democrats focus their blame on? Is there one Democrat politician in Oregon, in Washington State, who's willing to stand up and say, hey, this is an outrage. You guys need to knock this crap off. You're a disgrace to this country. You're a disgrace to your community. You're not fighting fascism. You're hurting your fellow human beings. You're hurting law enforcement officers. You're hurting civilians. You're destroying property. You're stealing. Destroying property is stealing. You're stealing from people like thieves. Do you think anyone says that? No. Do you know what they do focus on? Oh, the problem are the federal law enforcement officers the Trump administration has sent in to try to restore law and order. Here's the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler. Play clip 6.
Well, the president has a complete misunderstanding of cause and effect. What's happening here is we have dozens, if not hundreds, of federal troops descending upon our city. And what they're doing is they are sharply escalating the situation. Their presence here is actually leading to more violence and more vandalism, and it's not helping the situation at all. They're not wanted here. We haven't asked them here. In fact, we want them to leave.
Oh, too bad, Portland Mayor Wheeler, because you're still in America. The federal government is still a thing that exists. Democrats love it when it's in their hands. They'll use it for anything and everything. Yeah, Portland is still U.S. soil. It's not yet entirely a Chaz. Federal law enforcement's not welcome there. They're exacerbating the situation. This is one of the oldest Democrat tricks in the book. This reminds me quite a bit of the way that they used to talk about fighting against terrorism. Any fighting for Democrats against terrorism, their go-to complaint about this was that in fighting against terrorists, jihadists, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, you name it, the fighting against it creates more of it. That was always their response. This is what you're seeing now, the same thing with law enforcement. It's the enforcement of laws. It's the law enforcement agents and cops and so forth who are doing their jobs. They are the problem. The cops that sit back because they're told or because perhaps they don't want to enforce the law for a whole bunch of reasons in these cities. But the cops who are sitting back and not doing anything about it, they're the good guys in this formulation. They're doing it the right way. The federal agents who show up, the federal cops who are there, I thought the Democrats loved the FBI. I thought they thought the FBI was fantastic and all these different federal agencies. Oh no, only when it's useful to them. No principle here, no truth in their approach. It's just about politics and power in the moment. Now the Portland mayor is even worse. It's not just the federal law enforcement agencies. It's Trump. Portland is burning and is effectively a free fire zone for lunatic libs because of Donald Trump. You can't make this up. Play clip 5.
The ACLU filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration Friday night, as did your state attorney general. She accused federal agents of a, quote, escalation of fear and violence in Portland, as you just said. Do you think the Trump administration's breaking the law in your city?
I absolutely do. The tactics that the Trump administration are using on the streets of Portland are abhorrent. As you indicated at the introduction, people are being literally scooped off the street into unmarked vans, rental cars, apparently. They are being denied probable cause, and they're denied due process. They don't even know who's pulling them into the vans. The people aren't identifying themselves. And as far as I can see, this is completely unconstitutional.
Oh, now the Constitution counts. Well, what about equal protection under the law? Let's just take a look at that one for a second. When you have a mayor who's allowing the rampaging through the streets of a favored political entity, which is absolutely happening in the case of Portland and in Seattle, when you have mayors who are saying the law doesn't count, sorry if your business or your home gets burned down or destroyed, sorry if you get hit in the head with a rock, but it's really important that we have this left-wing activist movement out there terrifying everybody. A little bit too much. All of a sudden when it comes to Antifa, Democrats, it's like they've rediscovered states' rights, which, as we know, Democrats are always just the very term usually makes them outraged. But now that has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? The Trump administration is doing the right thing by sending in federal officers. There's no question in my mind about that. But let's also be very clear, that's not going to be sufficient. It's not going to be sufficient here. The only way that things get better is when you have two things that happen. One is the mobilization of the Trump movement in a way where it's clear it's not going away. They're not going to stamp it out by really intimidation and fear. That's what the Democrats are trying to do right now. COVID, fear of the mob in the streets. All Democrats are doing is making, just like Black Lives Matter, the movement, makes everything worse for everybody and has all along. Democrats are not doing that. They're making everything worse for everybody wherever they can. Misery works to their political advantage, and so misery is the order of the day. It's shocking. It's absurd. It's disgusting, but this is where we are. We got to fight. I'm not just here to whine to you about it. We got to fight back with everything we've got. Every time I even do a show like this at this point, I'm taking a risk. You think it's not a problem when I say things like Black Lives Matter has made everything worse for everybody? Oh, of course. You don't think that psycho libs are coming after me all the time, threatening to deplatform me, take me down? Constantly. But I'm fortunate enough to have the platform that I do, and I'm not going to back down because I love this country. I even love this insane city that I live in, which is being overrun by leftist lunatics at the leadership level and then on the streets with the mob. We are in a fight for the future of a real fight for the future of this country. Not a political debate, not how are we going to come together and find a third way? The people who want to be in charge want to dictate every aspect of your life to you. And they want to use the force of the state and the mob in the street in order to do it. They're not making good arguments. If they're making good arguments, they wouldn't put a moron like Joe Biden forward and say, yeah, this is the guy that will solve all of our problems. I'm hopeful that Joe Biden will be able to tie his shoes in 3 or 4 years' time. They want to make him president of the United States? You've got to be kidding me. Nope. Instead, you have the usual lunacy. Joe Scarborough and one of his many very expensive, this guy's become a millionaire by just shifting with the political winds whenever he has to. And Scarborough's out there letting everyone know that, this is it's good that the American people have turned against Donald Trump. Play 8.
Donald Trump is checked out when it comes to a pandemic that's killed almost 140,000 Americans. And Mika, I know we're going to talk about this too.
Yeah.
But what is really angering Republican senators right now who are in trouble is the fact that Trump is trying to continue to cut funding for testing and contact tracing at a time when our economy needs that the most, at a time when our small business owners need that the most, at a time when our airlines need that the most, at a time when restaurants need that the most, at a time when school teachers need that the most. He insists, as he has since March, that this country continues to fly blind. And the American people have overwhelmingly turned against him in Fox News polls, in Washington Post polls, in NBC News, Wall Street Journal polls, in every poll that's out there.
People have turned against him insofar as that's true. And I think that a lot of the polling, once again, is skewed and inaccurate. But people have turned against him because of individuals like Joe Scarborough who use their platforms to lie. That whole thing about how we're flying blind, we test more than any other country. We're doing more testing than any other country. So to say it's because we lack test and trace capability, that's not true. That's not true. The focus on testing at the expense of the truth of what is the real mortality rate we're seeing in the states that are so badly hit right now. That tells us a ton. Do you really believe, if you look at the statistics, you really think that Russia has done such a great job of managing the pandemic? People really think that that's true? Or is it just that the Russian government, there's no incentive to create panic within Russia because there's no opposition to speak of because Putin is an authoritarian? And so, yeah, some people have died from this in Russia, but they're just going forward with life. No, here we have the breathless headlines every day. Oh, look at all the people that are dying. Look at all the people that have this, rather, not dying in Florida. Look at all the people that have this. Name a state that's currently seeing high levels of caseload. And as if we have a cure for this and everything gets better through test and trace. This is just what people say who don't think. But it's a criticism. It's a criticism of Trump, therefore it must be valid. Just like the mask thing. Test and trace masks, we'd all be fine. There are states that have done none of those things to the degree that we would demand according to our experts, and they're fine now. There are states that have done a ton of that, like Italy and Spain, and they were in terrible shape. So I just have to wonder how much stupidity and how many lies we're really going to have to suffer through here before people finally say enough is enough. When does the backlash to all of this begin? When do we say we're not listening to you idiots anymore? You're not going to lock us in our homes. You're not going to foist this pseudoscience upon us, and you're not going to make excuses for the domestic terrorists that you have fostered within the Democratic Party. It's all meant as intimidation. Why do people burn down buildings? Why do people loot and riot and go into, the Amazon and Starbucks stores in Seattle? Yeah, they're angry and they're deranged, fine. But what's the political calculation behind that? Other people are going to see this, normal, decent people see this and say, look, I don't want that coming to my neighborhood, and I don't want to be a target of this. So sure, okay, whatever, I give. Joe Biden wins. Let's vote for Joe Biden. That is the plan. There is a strategy behind all of this. It's insidious, but there is a Democrat strategy behind this. Do we fight back? Do we win? That's the question we still have to answer here. I can't believe we're being evicted from our home that we didn't sell. That's what Deborah said when she learned she was the victim of home title fraud, a crime that can cost you your home. Title fraud is not covered by insurance or identity theft services. The only trusted folks to protect you are at Home Title Lock. Your home's legal title's online where cyber thieves find it and forge your signature stating you sold your home to them. In Deborah's case, she didn't know she was a victim until the eviction notice arrived. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. If tampering's detected, they instantly mobilize to stop it. So go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're a victim and don't know it. Use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. That's code BUCK at HometitleLock.com. Again, use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection at HometitleLock.com.
Lying about the fake news in the midst of a pandemic as the death toll rises and rises. What's so scary about his words is that he talks about the virus like it's no big deal when you catch it, like it's just the sniffles. He refers to the sniffles. He said most people just get better right away. We keep hearing about people suffering for months after contracting the virus. You know, it's bad enough that the hospitalization rates are rising. It's bad enough that the morgues are filling up. It's bad enough that elderly Americans are suffering in awful numbers. But even the folks who get the virus and then start to recover, they still feel terrible weeks and months afterwards. And there's no acknowledgement of that from the president. Instead, it's, we're testing too much.
This is Brian Stelter, expert on nothing, who just is the propaganda of Jeff Zucker over at CNN. He only has a TV show because he looks like Jeff Zucker, and he does his bidding, and yeah, he's just here to attack Republicans.
I want to meet the person. I want to meet the winner at life who watches people like Brian Stelter on TV and thinks, yeah, this is a smart person that I should listen to. I don't think they exist. Certainly not intelligent people who are winners at life. I don't think that they exist. I don't think it's possible to watch someone like Brian Stelter and be like, yeah, this guy knows what's up. 99.3% survival rate of the disease. We were told, what? 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, a huge problem was all the asymptomatic cases. Asymptomatic means you don't even know you have it. This mother who was just locked in her own home in Kentucky with an ankle bracelet on, didn't even know felt fine. We're all going to hide from a disease that most of the people who get it won't even know they have it? What is the answer? They say, oh, test more, mask, test more, mask. If that's the answer, the moment that you stop wearing masks, then we're all going to get this again. So wear a mask forever. Wear a mask for the next 10 years, all the time, outside, you better, or else. Test more. What's that going to do? Testing is so useful for people at the individual treatment level and at the early stages of a pandemic to try to contain and suppress it if possible. But we can't do that with this. It's already all over the country. And as I've said to you, I mean, I'm going to be traveling next month. I'm going down to North Carolina to speak to the Craven County Republicans. I'll give you the date. I'd love for as many members of Team Buck out there to please. I've been told that might already be sold out, which is I appreciate that. You know, hundreds and hundreds of people coming out. But if there are any tickets, I'd love for you to come. I'll give you the details. But I'm going to be out there. I'm going to travel. I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to do these things. And if I come back and I have COVID-19, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay home for 2 weeks and hope that I get better in a pretty reasonable fashion. But I plan on living my life. I don't plan on stopping the living of my life because paranoid lunatic libs really want to beat Donald Trump and won't listen to anybody who's being reasonable about this. I mean, this has just gotten absurd. Oh, or you can listen to Brian Stelter.
Hide under your bed. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Thanks, Brian. You're really useful. You're really an admirable fellow. Remember when Russia collusion was the biggest story in the world, really, biggest story in America for years, and we were told incessantly by members of the media, as well as some conservative pundits, writers, and so on, that Donald Trump had colluded with Russia and that the dossier from Christopher Steele was believable and legitimate, and that was all a lie. That was all a lie. And now we have more We have more from Strzok, rather, Peter Strzok. It comes out that in the early days of January 2017, they knew that the dossier was complete garbage, unverified trash from one subsource who didn't know anything. I mean, they basically found one guy who had heard all these rumors about Donald Trump, wrote them down, and then used that as the basis for a federal investigation of a presidential campaign. That's what happened. Paid for by Hillary Clinton. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's so egregious. It's so outrageous that it's almost hard to believe that this is what happened. But this is, in fact, what happened. And that's why when you have now, Republicans coming forward and saying, oh, there's going to be accountability. Oh, you've got Lindsey Graham telling us all, just give it some time. And people are going to go to prison. Play clip 12 here.
I'll be shocked if somebody does not go to jail now for defrauding the FISA court, because those people who submitted the warrant application in April of 2017 and June of 2017, months after the interview of the subsource saying it was all garbage, they should be real good candidates to go to jail.
Well, he's going to be shocked. I can tell you that. He's going to be shocked, that's for sure, because they're not going to jail. No way. No way. I'm not on the Senate Intelligence Committee, but I can tell you they're not going to jail. I worked in intelligence. I was actually one of the worker bees of the intelligence community, and no way it's not going to happen. If I will add this little proviso, if someone does face charges, it will be a relatively minor process crime. I'm talking about in the Russia collusion thing. Relatively minor process crime or, administrative issue, leaving something out of a FISA warrant. And it will only be someone that you've basically never heard of and no one cares. Keep in mind that even if you had someone like a Peter Strzok who faced charges because of his role in this, let's say they brought him up on some criminal charge. Do you really think that a jury in D.C. is going to convict Peter Strzok of anything? Nope. So maybe a better way of putting this is, I don't think anyone's getting charged. I know nobody's going to prison over this one. And I don't enjoy telling you this. I just see it. And I know what I believe to be the truth of the situation. It's just not going to happen. And Lindsey Graham at this point has just become a guy who, this is kind of his brand. He goes on, he's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and just wait and see. And, TikTok, just wait and see. Nope. The guy does nothing. Guy hasn't done anything worthwhile since one decent outburst on behalf of Brett Kavanaugh 2 years ago. That's it. Nothing else worth anybody's time that I can see. A lot of yapping on television about how he, I'm going to get to the bottom of this and I'm going to get to the bottom of that. No, he never does. He never does. Tonight we're going to drop a bombshell. I'm going to be on Fox tonight, and right. Every night we hear about this. I wish it were true. But those of you who have been listening to me for a long time know I said right after Obama's election that, with Trey Gowdy and all that stuff going on over Benghazi, and I knew I knew more about Benghazi than any of the people who were making a name for themselves with it right when it happened, for reasons that I'm sure a lot of you could figure out. So I had to sit there and be quiet about things. I was like, well, I know what happened here. As it broke in the news. But then Obama won, as you know, a couple months later. And I told people, I said, if you thought that there was going to be accountability for what happened in Benghazi, that just went out the window the moment that Barack Obama won re-election. No one's going to prison. Nothing's going to happen because they're covered now. They're covered. Ultimately, the DOJ under the Obama administration is not going to bring charges against anybody. So anyway, I was right about that. Nobody was held responsible for Benghazi, and I'm telling you right now, they're gonna skate on this one too. If the Durham probe, Mark Meadows is saying that from what he's seen, and Mark Meadows is a really good guy. I like Mark Meadows. He's chief of staff for the White House. He was a congressman before. I like Mark Meadows. I think he's optimistic. I don't think he's lying to you. And he could be right. I could be wrong. So we'll see. But, we got to know our enemy here. You got to know the opposition. They don't care. They don't play by normal rules. They fight dirty. They keep fighting dirty, and we keep turning around and saying, well, hold on a second. Those aren't the rules. And they laugh in our faces and say, haha, we win again. That's what they do. Trump was a break in that cycle. Trump came along and was like, you think you're going to fight dirty with me? I'll fight dirty with you. Let's go. That was the huge change of Trumpism. I mean, there's a lot of things that made this president very different from his competitors, but he came along and said, no, I'm not going to take the Romney approach of slap me in the face and then I'll apologize to you for hurting your hand. I'm so sorry. Is your hand okay after you slap me? After you punch me in the nose? Is your fist okay? I feel badly for it. That was the old Republicanism. Trump comes along and says, if you slap me, I'm going to punch you. Better, isn't it? Seems like a better dynamic if you believe that the Republican Party should actually have the power to do important things for the country. I wish I could tell you that I was a big believer in the prospect of real justice over I was going to say Benghazi. That certainly never happened. Remember all the hearings we had? And Trey Gowdy's like, I'm telling you, why don't you answer my question? I got to be on TV later. I'm going to be on Fox, and I'm going to, Trey Gowdy. Nope. Trey Gowdy didn't. No one got sent to prison. No accountability for whatsoever. Never found out anything we didn't know basically in the first 90 days of the whole situation. So, it was great TV for people for a while. It got the base all riled up, but we, remember, we lost. We lost that round. Still remains to be seen if we're going to lose this round too. This is all out political war. I've been telling you that for a while. That's what we're seeing play out. And in this environment, the Durham probe as some kind of a savior, there are just people that have invested a lot of time and a lot of their viewers and listeners' time in this. And they know they're only going to get people to listen and watch if they keep saying, oh, just wait, it's going to come. I think that that's wrong. If I am wrong, I'll come in there and say, hey, I'm so psyched, guys. Turns out there is justice, and I apologize for being a doubter. Those of you who listen to the show know when it comes to these things, I tend to be pretty accurate. Well, the president sat down with Chris Wallace for a very lengthy interview. Yesterday. And there were some worthwhile moments that I'll talk to you about now. It was not some earth-shattering event. The president is constantly sharing his thoughts on things, very much exposed to the public, and it's not like we don't know enough about what Trump thinks about really any issue at this point. But here's what some of the more interesting moments were. For example, Chris Wallace. I don't know why. Okay, well, he talks about masking and where we are in masking. This is the president's position on this. Plain 19.
No, I want people to have a certain freedom, and I don't believe in that, no. And I don't agree with the statement that if everybody wear a mask, everything disappears. Hey, Dr. Fauci said don't wear a mask. Our Surgeon General, terrific guy, said don't wear a mask. Everybody was saying don't wear a mask. All of a sudden, everybody's got to wear a mask. And as you know, masks cause problems, too. With that being said, I'm a believer in masks. I think masks are good. But I leave it up to the governors. Many of the governors are changing. They're more mask into. They like the concept of masks, but some of them don't agree. I do say this, schools have to open, young people have to go to school, and there's problems when you don't go to school too. And there's going to be a funding problem because we're not going to fund, when they don't open their schools, we're not going to fund them. We're not going to give them money if they're not going to school.
Masking, he's right on how they've changed the rules on that. So we need to at least be honest with each other. We need to be honest with ourselves that that's just the truth. And now Democrats are demanding masks. They want a national masking policy. I find a mask oppressive, and I find it on any circumstances where I'm outside. It's panic, knee-bending stupidity. That's my view on wearing a mask outside. Now, you do have to wear masks sometimes indoors. You do have to be careful around people who are at higher risk. I get that. I'm not saying never wear a mask. Of course not. But what we're being told is wear a mask all the time when you're outside. Wear a mask if you're anywhere near other human beings. That's insane. It's just insane. And I'm not going to change all that. I don't know what else to say. But I also have a realistic risk tolerance for living life, whereas a lot of libs seem to think that, if only we do everything the state says and all except that Trump is so evil, everything will be so much better. Trump was asked this question by Chris Wallace, which I found, I don't know why anyone who thinks of himself as a journalist pushes this question, because, well, I'll get into the why, but here, play 15.
I think mail-in voting is going to rig the election. I really do.
Are you suggesting that you might not accept the results of the election?
I have to see. Look, Hillary Clinton asked me the same thing.
No, I asked you the same thing in the debate.
There is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner, not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris.
And you know what? She's the one that never accepted it.
I agree.
She never accepted her loss, and she looks like a fool.
Can you give a direct answer? You will accept the election?
I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say no, and I didn't last time either.
Hillary didn't accept the results of the election, at least not publicly in her statements about it. Democrats didn't. That's why we have the deep state soft coup effort against the president. That's why we have the FBI, James Comey, Clapper, CIA Director Brennan trying to destroy his presidency after he won. They didn't accept the results of the election, but we have to ask Trump preemptively if he will accept the results. First of all, this is a stupid question. It's a stupid question. So let's just say that, because whatever the president says today about what he will do after the election is irrelevant until after the election anyway. Right? But it's a when did you stop beating your wife question. It's meant to suggest, just by asking the question, that the president can't be trusted, that he's not honest, that he's going to stay in office. Hillary Clinton, this is a talking point. Hello? A talking point that she uses. This president may not leave office. The office that Hillary still thinks belongs to her. And it really was hers before she even had to run a campaign. It just should have been given to her. That was, in her mind, the natural and righteous order of things. Stunning and stupid, but that's where we are. The president, if there's massive election fraud, of course he's not going to just accept that. And Democrats are advocating for a huge change to a national election in an incredibly contentious political environment with all kinds of tensions and extreme circumstances around it. And we just saw, I think it was in New Jersey, they held a local election, and a large portion of ballots that were cast by mail, they had to discard. And the actual separation between the two candidates, I'll have to dig into the details for you, was in the hundreds. So you think it's going to be fine to just have everyone voting by mail? Why are Democrats so obsessed with this? It's important enough to make exceptions for BLM protesters. That's important enough for the state, for governments. Health is secondary, but to have a once every 4 years presidential election and show up and do that, that's not important enough. These are the arguments that are being made to you. You can reject them, you can accept them. That's up to you. I think I know you're rejecting them. I'm just saying. It's completely insane. Sorry. A little bit of Buck is a little bit grumpy today. I'm a little grumpy, not just with Democrats. I'm a little grumpy with the way things are going in America right now. That's just the truth. It needs to be better than where we are right now. And people just need to get a grip. Stop losing their minds. Stop panicking. Stop freaking out and being such giant babies about how everything is the other side's fault all the time. All right, we have a manageable public health crisis that we are working our way through. Let's all take a deep breath and chill out. Let's let people who want to have their lives back have their lives back. It is unfair to hyper-regulate every aspect of our lives because of an arbitrary risk elimination strategy, not even mitigation, that the government's now trying to put into place. It's stunning. This is where we are. Trump also spoke about what he thinks about Biden, and this is not going to go away. Democrats can try to avoid this. They can try to skip past it. Play 18.
There's nothing they can ask me that I won't give them a proper answer to. Some people will like it, some people won't like it.
I agree with that.
But look,
You answer the
let
question.
Biden sit through an interview like this. He'll be on the ground crying for mommy. He'll say, Mommy, Mommy, please take me home.
Well, we've asked him for an interview, sir.
He can't do an interview. He's incompetent.
This is just an unforgivable move from my perspective. The Democrats have engaged in. This is unforgivable. That they put forward Joe Biden as the nominee. I mean, they're laughable at this. They have to understand this. That's the best they can come up with. They had a very broad field of Democrats to choose from, and they go with Joe Biden. This guy has run for president multiple times before and was a joke then. Now he's serious when he's even more old, more out of it. The guy's going to be president in his 80s. But this is the new reality we live in, where common sense is discarded as part of Democrat orthodoxy. Common sense doesn't apply anymore. You're not allowed to just be a reasonable, rational person and say, "Hold on a second, there's something up here. There's a problem here." No, that's that then itself is the issue. That's what they'll tell you. That you're approaching it from the perspective of somebody who has not lost their mind. You are then the problem. This is now mainstream Democrat thinking.